So this quick tutorial is to make you all aware of a recent update to our velocity. We now have 3 ways to determine velocity. So to jump into it, let me find, here's a good product. All right, so we click on this velocity, right? There's 2 ways to click. You can click here on this blue number, or you can click down here, right? And that'll open it up. Okay, so we have started originally with this adjusted velocity, which a lot of you guys are using, and you can select the velocity that you want to use based on what's relevant to you. We have added weighted averages, so if the 15-day is more important than, say, the 30-day and the 60-day, you can weight the averages. In this one, we say this is the most important. It all has to add up to 100%, but it essentially weights the one that you have the most weight on is the one that we're going to favor, and that's going to you have more force in the equation, right? So that's one way. You don't have to use weighted averages, but some people like it and have requested it. Manual velocity, especially if you don't know, you don't have the data. So for example, it's a product that you don't, that you are just launching or something like that. Or if you want to override the data. This tool is especially helpful when you're going to stock out and you're trying to figure out how much you have to slow down your sales to avoid the stock out. You can back up that number. So say at 25 per day, you're going to stock out, but maybe if you back it up to 22 per day, you can see in the timeline that it's going to help you to avoid that stock out. So that's another way that this manual velocity tool is very helpful. The other way that you can calculate velocity is to use last year's sales. You'll see this asterisk. That means you had a stock out day. What we're going to do is we're going to take the averages and we're going to fill in what we predict based on your average sales for that period, what we predict you would have sold if you had not stocked out. So you might see a number that, or a line of all of the same number with an asterisk next to it. That means there's a stock out and that we calculated that stock out out of our equation. Now if you wanted to remove that stock out, if you wanted to show zeros, you could always go and into your stock out section, and let me do that real quick. You could always go into your stock out section and say no, you'd have to go to last year, but you could go, okay, well in September, let's see, okay, 2009. So you say, okay, May of 2009, I really did have that slow sales day. Then we'll use this 17 instead of calculating that as a stock out. We'll use that number 17 instead. So if you are seeing numbers that you don't like to see and you don't want them to be counted as a stock out, you can just come in here and turn them on, and these numbers here will then be filled into that section, and we'll no longer do that as a stock out. All right, to go back to the velocity, the last year's sales. So I just wanted to point out, so we'll be pulling every single day worth of sales. We also will be factoring in, for example, if you have cut out any sales spikes, right? And you've said this is a sales spike, don't use these numbers, right? If we say don't use these numbers, it's going to do an average. But if we want to use those numbers, then we can turn that back on. All right, so that's another way that they'll be factored. And then finally, you can build on top of this. So you did last year's sales. You can also add future seasonal sales spikes. You can add lightning deals. So you can see here's a lightning deal, right? And it shows the increase. You can put a trend in there. You can add additional growth. Additional growth is great for sponsored ad campaigns. If you're going aggressive and you want to increase your sales by 10%, you can put growth there. So we'll just do a couple of these, right? We've got a lightning deal. We've got some sales spikes. Okay, so we'll look at those. We're going to add 5% growth. And we're going to look at the trend, right? Maybe we want to see, okay, so year to date, our trend is up by 11%. So we're saying, okay, 11%, so we're going on trend, and we're going to increase all of our sales by the trend from this past year, which is we're on an 11% growth trend from last year to this year. And then we also want an additional 5%. Then we have lightning deals and we have seasonal sales spikes. And so once that's all built out, you can click onto here and look at how it appears in your last year's sales. So you'll see that we've got our trend, right? We've got our added growth, and that increases our sales over here. And then we have our lightning deals. And then if we keep scrolling down to December, we should see, yes, right here. So we should see there's some growth. So what we've done here, this is our future seasonal spikes. So that's here, right? So seasonal spikes that have been added into the equation, and that is right here. So any of these spikes, and you can see there is actually a growth curve, an increased growth curve that is placed on top of what we're currently doing. So 150 might be too high, but say for example you wanted to do 20% better during the holiday season than you did last year. You can say, you know, we're on trend for 11%, plus we want to do an additional 5% overall, and then we want to do another 20% in addition to that in December. So those are some of the ways that you can use velocity along with the additional tools to really build out your marketing plan. Hope that's helpful. I know there were quite a few people who were hoping to get last year's sales as a calculation in there, and now we have it. So I wanted to make sure that you were aware of it.